It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week we are celebrating Mario Day, which is today, Mike, with a sequel announcement.
Oh, okay.
March 10th, M-A-R-1-O, Mario, get it? Yeah.
Oh, that's a stretch. Okay.
They've been doing it for years, man. I don't make the rules. They're going to roll with it. We've got a leaked look at Batman Caped Crusader series coming to Amazon. A lot of DMCA takedowns on this one, so hopefully our links are still working when we record on this. More Disney Plus series are getting Steelbook releases, and we'll talk about what those are and more.
Yeah, if you weren't listening live, I was just rambling earlier, and that's out there on the internet. But it's good.
We've been rambling for 10 years, Mike. It's fine.
It's good to know that even my ramblings are so entertaining that you could record them at any moment, and people will love listening to them.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. It's I threw a little bit of little tidbit, little fun fact at Mike before we recorded, because we usually at the last minute say something silly or off beat, and Mike just ran with it about a comic book cover and an artist. So I was giving a shout to Jason, who actually he wanted some inside baseball on today's topics. I said, you got to listen. So Jason, if you're listening, this is for you. I told him about the Scotty Young variant of the Century he brought me, and you said you've seen Scotty Young stuff before, Mike. Is that right, what you were saying?
Yeah, I've seen some of his art on, they originate on the comic book covers, right? But Box Lunch occasionally will have some of his work featured on shirts there, which is pretty cool. But I don't think I have that shirt anymore. I don't know where it went. But yeah, I love those little characters. It's almost kind of like they feel like maybe like right at home and like maybe like a Marvel Snap.
They are actually
right?
they are variants in Snap of kid variants in Snap. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, which is great. But you were talking about listening earlier, and I finally got my wife to watch Mutant Mayhem, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem with me last night. Because she didn't see it with me when it was in theaters, so that was just an absolute delight to revisit that movie. You were even bringing it up on the show the other week when we announced the sequel coming out in, was it 26?
Yeah.
I think in 26. So I was like, let's watch it, and it was. It was just a great reminder of just like the movie succeeds on every single category of like film. And the thing that I just forgot the most about, not having watched it in like over a year, is the soundtrack and the score is so good. That Trent Reznor score is just so like thumping and pounding. Like I keep forgetting like, oh, I should be putting this on when I'm like working during the day, because this will like just like get me like grinding through projects and stuff like that. And then like the soundtrack, just like great, like just kind of like street, like hip hop, fun stuff. So like this is your call, if you have not seen Mutant Mayhem yet, to go watch it, because it's so good. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm just scrolling real quick to see if it's in the show notes, and it's not, because it's probably just an unsubstantiated rumor. So you're doing your due diligence, Chris. I'm probably not putting it in here, but I did see like one of those like unfettered like Instagram squares in my Explore feed, which meant like I did no research on it, but it was just like, oh, Seth Rogen in development for an R-rated animated Venom movie, and that's probably what made me started thinking about Mutant Mayhem over the weekend. I don't know if that's gonna happen.
I don't think so. I don't think number one, anyone wants to work with Sony at this point, animated or not. I think there's still.
I think I think the animated side is the only place they have credibility.
But if he's taking another two years, right, 2.5 years to get that done, and Venom would be another 6 years, because we have heard and we've talked about the bad taste into the Spider-Verse. No, Across the Spider-Verse. The second one left on the animators for the crunch time and not literally having anything started on the third one yet, even though they had like a release date, remember? So I don't know, knowing that Rogan is taking the opposite approach for Turtles might clash a little bit with that sensibilities. Now, maybe his production house, him and was it Evan Goldberg, maybe is that his name?
Yeah, Point Grey.
Yeah, they have a production. Maybe they would be involved as executive producers, and maybe someone that they like, hey, we want some of this, but I've not heard anything about that at all. That's a stretch out there.
This is what I love to do at the top of the show before we get into anything. I just like to throw like a stick in your perfectly crafted spokes of show notes, and I'm just like, hey, Chris, you want to talk about just random headlines I saw on the internet before we get to your actual work?
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's perfectly fine, because you came in and you're like, oh, there's actually things to talk about this week, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Last week was a bit of a stretch, but I hope everyone enjoyed the show.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. This week, I would say this week's a bit of a stretch too. It's all one of the core pillars of today's episode is around a Zack Snyder interview on the Joe Rogan Experience, and boy, that hurt to even get.
Oh,
the facts
I didn't even
of
know
this.
that. I didn't even know that was where that was from. I just saw the quote. I did do due diligence to make sure that's literally what was said, and it was just quoted, I think, in a Vanity Fair.
Oh no, I got his quotes.
and
I
then
watched.
bounced.
I went through the whole thing to make sure we were good to go, and it was painful.
Oh my God.
It was so painful. But before we get into actual topics today, the Academy Awards are tonight, Mike. I didn't realize they were here so soon. All this time change has me out of the sorts. I don't know what day it is really.
Forward. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy out here if you're here on the West Coast in Southern California, because we sprung forward. You're like, you're doing like red carpet looks when it's like in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I guess it'll be good for camera, or it's going to be really good for that slow motion guy. I mean, I think that's the only reason people care about the red carpet anymore, is that dude with the long like, curly hair that does the slow-mo like punch zoom. Yeah.
Well, I don't even think he needs sunlight, because he has it, I think, underneath a canopy with the bright lights that you need for the slow-mo stuff anyway. So I think he's controlling all those variables regardless. But absolutely, yeah. It's the worst one because we lose the hour of sleep, right? The winter, when we gain that extra hour, in the spring we lose that hour. So I am bummed out mentally, but physically I'm very excited for this extra sunlight I'm going to have in the evening to do that stuff. But the Academy Awards were tonight. I snuck up on me. Had no idea. Very excited to hear the old white people telling us what movies they thought were good this year. So on the flip side of that, when the Academy Awards the Razzies are announced and declared as well, and the Razzies this year completely swapped is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey has taken the worst of everything. So if you were concerned that Shazam, Fury of the Gods, or Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania were going to take those awards, fear not. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey did across.
I mean, this is good news for them, though. This is the type of movie that would never see an award for pretty much anything. Like, maybe if you got like a really talented, practical, like visual effects person on board, maybe you could get some sort of like niche industry like nomination for like, oh, nobody's like done like blood splatter like this in a long time, right? But like I've heard this movie is so unremarkable on so many levels. It's not even one of those things where it's like fun to watch because it's bad. So this is just good for them because it just gets them in the news again.
Well, I can't wait for the re-release with the stickers, the Razzie award-winning stickers they're going to put on.
Oh, yeah, that would be a smart idea.
Lean into it a little bit. The Razzie's worst picture of the year kind of thing. Other than that, the only other movies I saw there, the movie itself and several actors for Shazam 2, Fury of the Gods was in there quite a bit. But it was for Michael Douglas and Bill Murray as supporting actors in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, not the movie itself. So really nothing superhero related kind of fit in that last year. So that was a plus that was that. But honestly, I don't know. I mean, anything else you got before we jump into this? I was telling Mike about my light gun games, and he didn't know there was a Jurassic Park game. He's probably seen it but never played it. But I was gonna say, if anyone has any I like to. I used to when I was younger, love to go to the movie theaters to play the arcade games before the movie, kind of thing. Like get there a little early and do that. Don't have that luxury these days, but would love to make up for it. But
Here's the thing,
yeah,
Chris. I am extremely like I'm not like a cheap person in real life. You know, I'd like to think I'm fairly responsible. But I am extremely price sensitive when it comes to like arcades, like, and also like the steps to do it. Like I have to exchange my physical bill for coins, and then I have to use how many coins. Like the bigger the game is, like the more footprint it takes in the arcade. It's like this is gonna take 8 coins. Like let me do the math real quick. Okay, that wasn't hard. $2 to play this, and I'm probably gonna die after 2 minutes.
Let me show how outdated your ideas here. I don't think they've used coins since 2009.
Well,
in
I'm saying
arcades.
this is me back in the day.
Yeah.
Now currently it's all credits, and it's just like it's 24 credits to play this thing.
I don't even do the math. I just swipe the card. Is it green? I'm gonna roll. If it's red, well then I need to go back and refresh it.
There's like a arcade downtown close to where we are, and they have like a VR setup.
Oh yeah.
Where first of all, I'm like, I do not want to put that headset on my face, because I don't know how many greasy teens it's been on.
You got your own headset.
The credit ratio to this one is absolutely insane. Like, if skee ball is like 2 credits, this thing was like 36 credits. I'm like, there's no way that whatever this thing is doing is just better than my like cheapy MetaQuest 2 at home.
I can't believe they just do credits and not make you just pay straight cash for it, like most, like, you know, like laser tag does or something like that.
Yeah, there should be like a bouncer in front of it, like, and checks your ID and make sure you got cash in the wallet.
Yeah, you need to pay. Like, we don't want your tickets. We just want your cash here. Come in through that. But yeah, so anyway, let's get into sad news at the top of the show. Earlier this I would say week, was it maybe Wednesday, Thursday, it was announced Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Saiyan, and most of the artwork for the Dragon Quest series, passed away at 68. The interesting thing about this, I will say, Mike, that he actually passed away March 1st, and they didn't really announce it until I think everything was said and done, due to the popularity of
That must, I mean, that's pretty nice, because it probably gave his family time, to process everything and, get all of the affairs in order. And then, that's when like the fan community gets to kind of like pour in. I follow a lot of artists on social media, and this passing was obviously sad, but it was a great celebration, because usually he kind of just gets strictly lumped in with like Dragon Ball Z, like the anime series. But I just saw tons of people just sharing his manga art throughout the week, which was great, because that's truly what he is. He was a manga creator, and it was nice to revisit maybe some of his more original or kind of classic Dragon Ball style, because I love the look and the vibe of those characters. Like, obviously we were like born, and it feels like we were born and raised on Dragon Ball Z, where every character has like points, whether it's in their hair or in their abs or their pecs or muscles or like even like elbows. Like they're pointy and ready to fight. But like Dragon Ball, everything's just like cuter, smoother. I mean, we were just talking about what was it, Scotty Young at the top of the show with his kind of like chibi art style. I mean, Akira Toriyama, like he like catapulted that visual style, and it's just so nice. It's so charming. The vehicle design, I mean, his vehicle designs are like next level.
Yeah, you can tell when he did a design or an artwork, right? Like, and that's why I like lean at like the Dragon Quest series. Like when you look at it, like I'm like, why does this feel so familiar? Or Chrono Trigger, for if you're a fan of RPGs from the 90s. Like you look at it, like, why does this look familiar? Oh, it's the hair, it's the eyes, it's the the body structure of this stuff, of what he created. And that is, we say Dragon Ball, like he did Dragon Ball, that was 80s, right? Like most of the 80s and some of the 90s, and then he went on to just be kind of an art designer for a lot of other things, and doing like one shots throughout. But you mentioned you follow a lot of artists, a lot of other anime creators, including like One Piece or Naruto or any other big anime was doing I guess tribute pieces, as you would call them, to him this week, like coming out of like I wouldn't say the woodwork, but like his impact on anime and manga as a whole is just unrivaled, right? For this current generation of people. Like, I don't think we would have the anime that we have in America now if it wasn't for the adaptation and slow adoption of Dragon Ball Z into Toonami and other Cartoon Network stuff along the way.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying that this news kind of broke later in the week, so it's been a few days. But just for the sake of experimentation, I just pulled up my I don't want to call it an X account, my Twitter page. The domain is still twitter.com, so it is Twitter. Pulled up my Twitter page, and I just started scrolling, and then I'm already seeing more Akira Toriyama just tributes that I haven't seen. Oh, this one's great. It's a CRT TV that has Dragon Ball Z in the screen, and then there's just like all of these like chords and like vintage. It's just like it's like a perfect just little encapsulation of childhood. But yeah, he's going to be missed. But I mean, what a dream for every artist out there to just leave a legacy behind, like how he did. Right. So
where you could say his name and people like, oh, Dragon Ball, like, right, like you know his name from seeing that and being part of that, and to the fact that something he created, you know, originally Dragon Ball Z, was resurrected like 20 years later after it kind of ended, right, in the mid 2000s with the new movies and the Dragon Ball Super thing, like someone else, Toyotaro, he's the guy who's illustrating. Toriyama he was inviting the story, but like he even has another anime series, Dragon Ball Daima, coming out later this year that he did create the story and character designs for before he passed. Like just to continue taking something you created and loved doing and have it come back to life later is even crazier to me, right? Like,
is this like the one where like Goku like?
Well, you're thinking GT, Dragon Ball GT. So
like I'm looking at like a kid. We talked about this before, right? This looks familiar, but I don't know anything about it.
So Dragon Ball GT was the sequel to Dragon Ball Z. A lot of people, but Toriyama had nothing to do with it other than the name and some character designs. It's not his story, nothing. That was purely an anime created only, nothing based on the manga. Daima is essentially I wouldn't say his version of it, but they are creating. There's a dragon wish that makes all the characters youthful again, young versions of themselves, and is dealing with this small anime series. Everyone
looks young. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not GT. It's not based on GT. It's his own unique thing. But he did create the story for this one. And then there's another game and story coming out of a thing he created called Sandland. And a game is coming out later this year for Sandland, like a big open world game. And I think there's a web anime version of it that's just coming out this year as well. So like literally so much. He was still making stuff, you know, up
yeah, it looks like it looks like it, at least when I Google it, it's pulling up on manga, so maybe it's based on one of his
he started with the manga and then it's continued it later. Like this is when it like got life 20 years later again, kind of deal. So yeah, absolutely.
His art style is just so strong. Like I'm pulling up Sandland, obviously not connected to Dragon Ball in any way. But like you look at the back cover, there's a tank on it that looks like it's straight out of like the you know, any of his worlds, these characters. So
yeah, so
we lost a good one. Pour one out for him.
Absolutely. So anyone who's ever been, you know, we I guess anyone who's watched Dragon Ball or knows Dragon Ball, like this is one of the biggest, you know, I guess properties out of what is it Bandai, I believe, who owns it. So like it's still one of the biggest things in the world. One Piece has gotten up there as well, but this is great. Hopefully they don't make a live action adaptation again anytime soon.
I have a question for you, Chris, since you seem to be the lord and master of screens in my life. Can you read like black and white manga on like e-ink screens?
Some of them, yes. So I think some of the the Kindles have the ability to read some of those. Non-colored ones, yes.
Yeah, because I feel like that would be like great. I mean, obviously manga artwork would look amazing like on an iPad, right? No one's saying that wouldn't be the case, but like on e-ink, I feel like that'd be kind of fun. Yeah.
I believe some of the earlier Kindles before they became tablets had that ability to get those books in there, and which is again one of the hardest things. They read right to left instead of left to right. So whenever I'm looking at like panels on like Twitter or something like that or Instagram, I'm like, am I reading this the right direction? Do I need to like how do I need to do this?
Rewire. I just googled like e-ink manga, and there's like I came across a literal like purpose built device just for manga. It's like an e-ink screen, but it's like 2 panels, like left screen, right screen for like right and left pages.
Oh,
and yeah, it's just like a little tablet just for reading manga. That's great.
Oh, that's pretty neat. Yeah. I will never forgive you for the time you had an extra order of Dragon Ball Z manga delivered to your apartment, Mike, and I didn't get them because you gave them away to somebody else.
I forgot about that.
I'm not. I'm still holding that against you all these years later. All those free things I never got, but
seething in the background.
Yes, but anyway, sad news. We'll like I said, pour one out for him. Shifting gear, today is March 10th, as Mike has just discovered Mario Day. And with that, there's a bunch of Mario things being announced. There's video game release dates for like Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door remaster for Switch. I think Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. There's a Lego Mario Kart sets coming out next year. So if you're into Lego and Mario Kart, but also the big thing that came out was Super Mario Brothers, the movie, has a sequel coming out April 3rd, 2026. It was announced today. Same teams coming back. Creative teams. I don't know about the voice teams. Probably the voice actors as well. But at least the same creative teams are coming back to continue the story in the Super Mario Brothers world.
Hey, that's the same year we're getting more Turtles, depending on the production cycle for the Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just have a repeat of 2023 with all of these animated films.
Yeah, good animated stuff. Yeah, I enjoy the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's still this week. I was looking at the Nielsen streaming numbers. The number one movie streaming this week is actually The Marvels, which is great. The third movie is actually Super Mario Brothers still. Like, it is still in the top 10 of animated, or not animated, just streaming movies, like, since its release on streaming.
Yeah. It's just one, not to dive back into the review for the movie, but that was my biggest criticism for the movie, is it feels like an Illumination movie, right? It doesn't feel like they're trying to elevate the material in any way to connect with adults. It's like, oh, they just want to hit those kiddies, and that's what the kiddies do. They put a movie on and they stream it and they just watch it on repeat all day, 5 days in a row, 6 days in a row, take a break because their parents forced them to watch something else and they go right back to it. So I'm not surprised that a movie like Mario is still in the top.
But I think it's also one that probably is the least grating on parents in terms of that. Like, you're not getting a bunch of minion gibberish sounds or
I suppose
like Steve Carell's bad accent. When we talk about this,
I hate that Gru.
Yeah, so like it's not very grindy. It's got popular songs, Mike. Take on Me, whenever they go in there, despite the fact they had songs actually composed for those pieces. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but boy, compared to its original Super Mario Bros. Live action adaptation, it's a godsend. Please give us another. Good for it. I mean, I'm excited for Mario to get a sequel, and Nintendo and Illumination, or is it DreamWorks Illumination? Is it the same thing now? I don't know.
But they're owned by the same parent company of Comcast Universal,
Gotcha.
But different.
Well, good for them to put out a movie to get that much faith and want to create a second one. So, moving on with that. All right, let's get into the Zack Snyder, Joe Rogan Experience thing.
Oh boy, this is like perfect bait for me. Whenever Zack Snyder comes out of the woodwork and just says something stupid, I'm just like, oh, I'm fired up. Yeah. I am fired up.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we're gonna get the Batman Superman thing out of the way because that's actually on topic here. The other one is as well.
Okay.
But Zack Snyder says he prefers Ben Affleck as Batman over Christian Bale because Batman's a big dude. And that he is not being rude to Christian Bale's version. He just prefers a bulkier Batman. And he went on this big... I didn't put it in here. He went on this big explanation of how Ben Affleck is like 6'6" with muscles when he's like in the suit. And that Christian Bale's a great Batman, but he's still only 5'10" with the suit on. I get it. You have a personal preference on what your Batman looks like in your comic books. But what a weird thing to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, I feel like this was more. This from the Joe Rogan interview.
All this was, yeah, absolutely all this was.
Okay, because the expert interviewer Joe Rogan is, which sarcasm noted there, is I'm sure he's just going stream of consciousness, just like, who's your favorite Batman? Which Batman do you like more? I've met both of these guys before, but which one do you like
someone's
more?
probably
So
feeding him
it's not
some
like-
questions. They're like, hey, we want to flare up the internet a little bit. Could you ask him about Batman for a second?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think visually, Ben Affleck's Batman on screen looked amazing. I mean, that was on record for the internet when we saw the first trailer for the movie, right? He looked so awesome in that kind of more like gray leaning Dark Knight Returns suit.
And it fits that world, right? Like it fits that world of this Batman. Like wasn't he like, there's a workout montage where he's pulling tires with chains and stuff like that too. Like it just become like, we never get that with Christian Bale. Like we see him do more martial arts, right? He's more of a quick on his feet kind of fighter in that series. He learned from Ra's al Ghul. So like I understand if you fits the universe, but it's
I mean, the height thing is kind of like a moot point, especially in like production. The only people that are going to notice are the ones that are on set. I mean, Tom Cruise historically, a shorter guy, but you'd never know it if you looked at the movies that he watched. And it's funny, and it all depends on the people you surround him with, because when I'm thinking like, the scene in, I guess Justice League, I suppose, when all of the heroes are kind of in like Bruce's like warehouse, and they're like, I think they're like fixing their ship.
He's fixing the thing, because he's the only person who can't run or fly or swim fast. So yes, he has to do that.
I mean, if you flank Ben Affleck with Jason Momoa and Gal Gadot, which they're both seem like they're pretty big in stature, like he actually kind of seems like short in comparison.
And I'm pretty sure Cyborg was there, right? As a robot, he's a very large person as well.
Oh yeah, he is in that movie, isn't he?
I don't feel like he was 6.5 foot tall. If so, he felt like an average 6 foot person, with everyone else around him being 6.5 foot tall.
Yeah.
So
either way, this is just a primer for just like Snyder just always trying to subtly say the stuff he does is better than you think it is. Like it just feels like he constantly has to kind of like defend himself in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. So we'll So Batman, he did not have anything bad to say about Christian Bale or Christopher Nolan's work, obviously, which led him in. He was a producer on Man of Steel, right? Christopher Nolan was like he helped feed this, so he didn't have anything bad to say. It was just a point to bring up that he prefers the Batman he created and had a hand in doing things with. Moving on, Rebel Moon. Mike, we talked about this. I think we caused this to happen, because earlier this week I said, Mike, aren't we going to do Rebel Moon Part 2 sometime soon? Like, I feel like it's been years since that first one came out.
I literally forgot about the movie. I often, like many people, think of my brain like a filing cabinet, right? And like as things become unimportant, you get further back into the cabinet. And just different things throughout your life will bring like the note cards forward or backwards. Like I swear, like Rebel Moon, like I just missed the drawer entirely, and the card just fell on the floor. I just don't remember it at all.
Yeah. So Rebel Moon, Part 1, Child of Fire, and then Part 2, Scargiver, is coming out, I think, April. So we are due for it soon. So this is probably some pre-marketing, pre-advertising, getting Zack Snyder out there. He's probably on Hot Ones next week if we pay attention. But Zack Snyder on the Joe Rogan Experience has done some interesting math, if you will.
Is this I think girl math.
This is worse than girl math.
This is like what do we call this? Like director math, Snyder math.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna go through quotes here, and Mike, you bear with me here. So he says, so say right now Rebel Moon has almost 90 million views on Netflix, 90 million starts or 90 million accounts turned it on. Give or take, they assume 2 viewers per screening. I'm putting asterisks on every one of these sentences. We're going to cover them at the end. Then he goes on to say, so you think if that movie was in theaters as a distribution model, that's 160 million people supposedly watching based on that math. Okay. More people probably saw Rebel Moon than saw Barbie in the theater. That's how crazy Netflix, that's the distribution model they set up, he concluded. So he is saying that, I forgot the numbers here, 160 million people at $10 a ticket would make $1.6 billion, Mike, which Barbie made $1.4 billion. If his math is 1-for-1. So I went through this. I did this whole thing, Mike. I went through this, listening to this and kind of break it down. So there's a big assumption here. Netflix is their viewers, calculates their viewers on viewed minutes divided by runtime. Okay. On this podcast, you watched Rebel Moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did your wife watch Rebel Moon with you?
No.
Yep, same here. So we out of our sample pool of 2, we're 100% against his model already. For this. Also, he said so it's Netflix is viewers viewing minutes divided by runtime gets the number of viewers, which is still not true because that if there are Snyder fans who just watch this like 4 or 5 times, that's still one person, right? That's one ticket. Also, assuming 2 viewers per screening is a non-confirmed assumption that Netflix must use internally, or that he has made up for this, because there is no way in any officially released thing that they say we assume 2 people per view, on this on their announcement stuff.
Yeah, I'm assuming Snyder. Like I've said before, I want someone to identify this cheerleader, this bolster, this producer who at Netflix has such a hard on for Snyder that they are pushing all of his projects through no matter what. Whoever that person is, that is Snyder's connection into like the Netflix universe. So I could easily see whoever this producer is being like, oh yeah, just go ahead and assume like that, double it, because like, you have it on the couch, so there's multiple people there. So I would assume, I don't think it's probably an official number. It's probably just some like coked up producer over on Netflix just getting too jazzed on Snyder. I mean, there's so many takeaways you could take from this, right? Like, even if you give the benefit of the doubt to all of these numbers, factually, right? There's so little in between somebody watching something on Netflix beyond going to a movie, right? So even if you theoretically got all of these viewers, if you were to make them pay, a la carte for Rebel Moon, you can go ahead and already take out probably over half of the people that watched Rebel Moon. I mean, me and you, Chris, if we weren't doing this show, best case scenario, I would have started it and then never finished it because it was so bad, or I just never would have watched it to begin with. So we had ulterior motives to even finish it, right? Yeah. So that's giving the benefit of the doubt there. But also, at what interest level are people actually watching the movie, right? When I was in theaters watching Barbie, I was front and center, luckily no distractions in my theater, ingesting the whole narrative of the film, all of the performances, right? What is everybody doing on their couch at home in front of Netflix? They're looking at their phone like every 2 seconds, right? They're checking notifications, right? You're not ingratiating a fan base the same. So even if we give you all of those viewers, I mean, how many of them are really going to go to bat for you in the future of your franchise? So and you have here your final note that both of them, both praised Barbie. So this is very similar to the Batman conversation we were just having. I don't believe Snyder is doing slights on anyone, right? He is just out here just trying to prove to himself that he's not being a failure at all of these narratives that he's creating. Like, he has to find a way to compare himself to something more critically or financially successful, because he can't make anything good anymore. Like, I don't know what he needs to do. I mean, step one, he just needs to direct something that he didn't write. That is the first thing he needs to do. And then he needs to find a creative producer, somebody that just won't let him do whatever he wants, if he ever has a chance of making anything that people are actually going to universally enjoy. And I don't think that's ever going to happen, because if he's going on a podcast like this and doing all of these mental gymnastics to prove to himself that he's still doing good, I wouldn't say there's not a lot of hope here.
I don't know if he's doing it, or I don't know. I don't know the guy, but I do think it is hard to say the things I can't believe the things he says. I can't endorse the things he produces. And also, I pulled up. By the way, just because I was curious, and I pulled up earlier, it's a streaming model. Is to viewing like you mentioned, apples or oranges. I even wrote that down here in the notes. Looking up the top 20 most watched films of 2023 on streaming in the U.S. Okay, we're just gonna go with U.S. because we can say that it's not even in the top 20. Mike, Leave the World Behind, You People, The Mother, Murder Mystery 2 are all higher streaming on Netflix than this movie did. So I don't know. Yeah. And I believe these numbers more than the unreleased Netflix viewing model, right? Streaming numbers versus that. There's some people out there probably watching Red Notice on repeat just to say that 8 people are watching this a day kind of deal. In that regards, I just don't. I can't agree with his math. I don't think if they put Rebel Moon in theaters, it would be Barbie level stuff. I mean, this is your girl math. You want your girl math, Mike? Here's your girl math. If you're already subscribing to Netflix and you watch a movie on there, guess what? It's free because you already have a subscription, right? You're not paying for that. How many movies do you watch a month on Netflix? And how many of those would you not watch in theater because the price is not $10 a ticket? Let's be honest. When's the last time you paid $10 to go to see a movie, Mike, in theaters? Very long time ago.
I mean, I don't even want to associate the term girl math with this because girl math is usually fun,
right? Yeah.
There's no fun happening.
Well, I'm just saying, if it was any movie and you're on if you have Disney Plus and you watch the Marvels, guess what? It's free. Yeah.
And also, I think the numbers that you brought up of those top 20 streaming movies is a great point too, because we can certainly take that as somewhat fact, right? Because those are like real hard numbers that can be backed up with data from Nielsen, right? So if we take those as truth and give Snyder the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's the 21st movie, right? He's just right off the chart, right? That just means that there are 20 more successful movies that year than his science fiction magnum opus that he had total creative control and a huge budget for, right? Yeah. For a streaming movie. So that's not even serving you well if you look at it that way, dude, of just all of these other 20 movies, and some of them are just kind of schlock that got into that top 20. So it's just dude, you got to rethink your creative you got to rethink your creative strategy. This is not a good idea.
Let me go and tell you, Super Mario is on this list twice because of its numbers on Peacock and then its numbers on Netflix.
Oh my god.
That's how good that movie's doing, right? Just since we've already talked about it, Guardians of the Galaxy on here, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it's on here. Avatar, The Way of Water, big streaming last year. So there are movies. These are movies that were in theaters, and then they came out, and then they had people watch them even more at home, right? That tells me.
Oh, that's a great point. These are all second viewings.
Yeah, I think Leave the World Behind, maybe Murder Mystery. I think maybe The Mother. Some of these are initial views, but a lot of these are second dippings, right? Of people who didn't pay to go watch. So add that on to their actual box office total and see what you get at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So. It's hard. I'm not angry at Zack Snyder. He has essentially conflated himself with success, and there is no reason for that. I think if he took a more humble approach to himself and his works, we'd probably get something good out of it, right? Be less, and less is more at the end of the day. But when you're out there doing this kind of stuff in a podcast that is known for poking the bear and being dramatic and, making outrageous claims because they have quote unquote hot takes, Mike, on it, you're bound to get something like this to pop up there.
I mean, he can factually say he got us fired up.
Yeah, we're talking about it. He's getting a listen. He got listens on this show.
That's true. Not many directors can say that.
Yes. The last thing I'll say, I don't have it in notes here, but he did say, I believe, confirmed that the director's cuts of Rebel Moon Part 1 and 2 will come out at the same time rather than a double release again. I think they're going to wait for them both and then put them both out there, which would be nice if we revisit them in those director cut formats to not have to wait and forget about a movie for 6 months at a time. So we'll keep you guys posted as more quote unquote news comes out of this situation for us. Superman is filming, and one of the things that was brought up is that the first scenes are being filmed in Svalbard, Norway, which is a stand-in for an ice fortress location. So that's where they're filming first.
That's what I was just about to say. So that might explain a little bit of the snow on the suit photo that was released. Still holding out for frost breath. Still holding out.
Hey, I'm not against you. I think give him the frost breath, but I think Fortress of Solitude, Ice Fortress, that's nice. And they only touched, correct me if I'm wrong, they only touched on that briefly in Man of Steel, right? Like when he went back and found the thing, and then I think they dug it out in Batman v Superman when they brought it into town to make Doomsday. So it would be nice to actually have a nice ice fortress that's more than just a one-time location for him. So hopefully we get some of that in the Superman movie from James Gunn. All right, so this is going to be a gamble here, Mike. I've got leaked images from Batman Caped Crusader, the animated series that Amazon picked up, and I don't know if these links work because the Amazon has taken them down. So the first one, we have our first designs from this, and they're from, obviously, Amazon Research, so they're showing off of screenshots along the way. And it kind of confirms a couple things here and what you can see briefly in these shots, Mike, that the design is a cross between Batman the Animated Series and Batman the Brave and Bold here. When you take a look at it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't even really a watcher of Brave and the Bold, but, the style is recognizable enough.
Yeah, and I think we get even more so on our second link here, not to cut you off, in the villains that have been released. The villain designs are very much animated series to me, more than the Batman we're seeing.
The Renee Montoya in the middle.
Yeah,
that just feels like the perfect encapsulation of the Bruce Timm kind of character design. The Catwoman's cool to see too, the vintage Catwoman.
Yeah, so we've got 6, 7, 8 villains here. Some redesigns that are obviously going to maybe spark controversy or discussions along the way. But to me, it was Natalia Knight in the bottom left that looked like a Bruce Timm character, maybe like Batman Beyond, even in the eyes a little bit. But you can see here, you have Two-Face, not as scarred, not as purpley on the Two-Face, like gently, I guess, scarred, if you will. Gentleman Ghost, I've never heard of before in my life. Clayface is interesting. It looks like he has hair and possibly like a melted looking face, if you will, a little bit. Catwoman, like you mentioned, purple classic design with the capes. Renee Montoya. Natalia Knight looks like Wednesday Addams, if you will. Onomatopoeia, I believe he's been in some other promotional art, but he reminds me of literally the Spot if he was in Spider-Man Noir. And lastly, the one I think is going to cause the most conversation is the Harley Quinn redesign. And this is very much a jester take on Harley Quinn, if you will.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was Harley Quinn at first until I read the caption. I figured that was part of like the Royal Flush Gang or something along those lines.
That sounds like someone in the Powerpuff Girls, like the Royal Flush Gang. But anyway,
this almost makes sense though. Like Harley Quinn originated from the animated series, so kind of if you're returning to that world, it almost seems like, well, let's do something like fresh and different, because this seems to be like a very not unique take on Batman. Batman's definitely gone noir before, but like, if you're gonna do it different, I'm basically what I'm saying is I'm okay with it. I'm kind of curious what everything's going to look like in motion. I keep looking back at, the first image that we get to see of Batman, and I'm assuming that's Alfred.
Yes.
There with his very broad shoulders. I'm curious what the visual is going to look like, right? Because when I think of Batman, the animated series, as a kid growing up, it was a dark show. It was mature. I believe if I remember right, they didn't even use like white paper when they were doing like the character designs and backgrounds. They were using like black paper, and then they were basically adding light to it instead of adding dark to it. And that just like really broke through on the visual design. It always felt like way more mature. Like even as you got older, it always felt like a show that like, oh, your older sibling was supposed to be watching and you weren't still quite old enough. I know it's going to be impossible to recapture that feeling as an adult, right? But like, you know, with these new ways that you can produce animation, it's almost easier to do like lighting effects and add like brightness to it. I almost want them to go the opposite direction and just keep making it dark.
That first image, if you look at the logo, right, that's where that is, right? It's a black image and they've added light to it to make Batman pop off of it. So I believe it. And I would say what I see most of this, and I can't really get a confirmation. Is this like 1930s, like 1940s era, like supposed to be set, or like a faux 20s and 30s era?
I feel like they'll kind of do what they did with the original animated series of just like they kind of keep it nebulous. You know, it seems like, oh, if you're gonna tell like maybe a story that's related to maybe technology in a way, just write it in a way where maybe we don't have to include like a smartphone, you know, so it can kind of be almost timeless in a way.
Exactly, because like if you look at these, like they're wearing suits and like, you know, different design, like there's no modern, you know, look to these characters. And if you look at Batman and the butler here, Alfred, like, you know, there's nothing giving away that's saying this is a modern suit even, right? It looks like a very gray suit with a very small Batman logo on it, like a kind of like the 60s Batman, if you will. Right, that little logo in the middle. So like it looks like they're really borrowing the animated series and like, hey, we're not saying this at a certain time, but they are leaning possibly into, you mentioned noir, 20s 30s noir-esque pretty heavily on this stuff. But these are very real images because Amazon, who is, you know, releasing this, producing this, has been hitting accounts who've been sharing these with DMCA takedowns. That's why I was worried about the images we linked here, even though I went through a lot of different ways to get them along the way. So get a look while you can, because there were some other cleaner images, but those were taken down like right away. And like once they're taken down, they're hard to get those high res images back again. So I'm excited for this. I like to see it in action like a trailer, but you know, Amazon's been doing great stuff with their animated work lately. So we'll see, you know, when it comes out, what we'll get out of it. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can, including swinging back into theaters, Mike. I've been waiting to use that one. Sony is releasing all Spider-Man movies, live action, from Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland into theaters again this year on a weekly basis starting in April. So if you want to go relive the 2000s, early, late, you know, the 10s, all of the movies are here, from Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, 3, Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home, and the release dates are in here.
It seems to be a bit of a theme this year. I mean, we started off the year with those pandemic direct to Disney Plus Pixar movies hitting theaters.
Yep.
Now these Spider-Mans are being re-released. I mean, I know this isn't new. They do this before, but it's interesting to see more of a theme being built out around it now. Like this is a big marketing event because we can market all of the Spider-Man movies are coming back, and you know, all of these Pixar movies. It's not just kind of like one-off re-release of just like, oh, let's get Avatar back on the top of the box office again because we need a couple more mil to get it back up there.
And it's not a Fathom events where it's like, hey, do you want to see the silent film The Mask of Zorro again in theaters, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. There are no plans for Spider-Verse movies at this time, sadly, but I think that's fine. Honestly, I would love to see Spider-Man 2 again in theaters. If I could like look at this list and be like, I would love to go revisit watching Spider-Man 1 or 2 in the theaters, just to do it again because it's been so long, right?
I'm curious too. I'm not saying this is the reason why they're doing this, but I'm sure there's some sort of finance department, some sort of producers that are going to be paying close attention to the numbers for The Amazing Spider-Man, right? Because Andrew Garfield's like portrayal of Spider-Man kind of turned into like a meme over the last couple of years of people like putting on 3 pairs of rose-colored glasses. I don't know how many it takes to make that movie good, but people seem to be tricking themselves that those were good movies.
The first one is not bad. I will give them the first one. That second one can never exist, and I'd be a happy person. And I'm not usually that negative, but that movie is just a waste of time.
I feel like, you know, after Madam Web, it's going to be like, oh, we're Sony. We're still going to be making crazy Spider-Man movies, whether you like it or not, because we don't want to lose the license, but they're probably going to want to be a little bit more judicious about it. So maybe they're going to need some numbers to back up if they're going to bring Garfield.
I disagree. I don't think you can tell them right from wrong, and they won't listen to you either way, Mike, because we are still getting Craven. We are still getting, Venom 3, it's fine. I understand Venom 3. They got 2, they can do 3, but like we're still going to get Craven this year, and it's going to be even worse, right? Because he has magic animal blood in him. We've seen the trailer. They can't trick us anymore. We know what's happening. What I think this is Madam Web's underperforming at the box office, right? It's a tragedy. They're a laughing stock. How do we get more money in our pockets without extra work? This is how you do it. You do a limited time theatrical release for some of these movies, and then you just get more money in your pockets at the end of the day. I don't think they're smart enough to have any numbers or stats behind it to think about the future. They're just going to make whatever Avi Arad says he wants to make, because he has head producer rights or whatever over there. So to me, it's just a money thing. It's like why it was the Phantom Menace we talked about a couple of weeks ago coming back on his birthday this year. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. I don't care on the 25th anniversary to watch the Phantom Menace because I'd like to go watch it in theaters, but I don't think there's ulterior motives for that along the way. But maybe it's just my naivety. But I think if I was to pick one of these, Mike, I would see Spider-Man 1 or 2. Is there any of them that you would like to re-see in theaters? If you were like, hey, we got a free ticket for you, and you can go to any one of these, which one do you want?
Honestly, probably Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
The Tom Holland ones are great, but they're just fresher in my brain, a little less necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember watching those movies, right, in theater. The other ones, I'm like, God, do I remember? So absolutely. So cool. All right, well, we'll keep everyone. I mean, you guys take a look. If I go in AM, I'll let you guys know, but I'm excited to see what that is. Even though at least they're not doing Venom at the end of this, maybe, hey, we're going to do a Venom kickoff and then a Morbius watch party, but either way. All right, so we're going to jump into, we've got 2 separate topics of this. The first one is Marvel, and that's the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Moon Knight are both getting Steelbook, 4K Steelbook releases at the end of April. And this includes extra featurettes, deleted scenes, and other things that you would expect to find at release, not just the episodes. And this follows the previous release of WandaVision and Loki, which got those as well. So to me, this is another grab to make up money for things that they lost money on streaming early on. Right?
Wasn't it just didn't we just report that Disney is moving all physical media production through Sony?
Yeah,
right?
they're handling like the
manufacturing of all that.
Well, they're handling the non-collectible versions. This would be considered a collectible version. So
okay, gotcha.
Maybe like whenever Avatar comes out, or whenever after Sony will handle all the production and stuff.
Maybe that just frees up whatever department works on these collectible stuff. Maybe they can be a little bit more focused in the future. But I don't know. Chris, I'm going to ask you a real question here.
Yes, I'm pre-ordering.
This is gonna cut to the heart of your. You collect all of these, right?
Yep.
And I appreciate the completionist side, and I'm sure even I would get satisfaction out of looking at the shelf of all the Steelbooks, because I don't think I've ever seen them all collected in one spot before. But are you still taking them out of the case and watching them off of the disc?
That's a fun question. TV shows
like this is hostile.
No, not really. Because I will tell you, when I watched Dune Part 1, I watched the DVD of Dune. I didn't watch the streaming version of Dune. TV shows a little harder to get into because you just want to. I just want to pop lane. I'll be honest. I've not revisited a lot of the Marvel stuff. If I'm going to be completely transparent, it's hard to. But the movies I do. I will, if I have the 4K version, I will put it in my Blu-ray player and watch it with my home setup the way I have it.
That's a fair argument there, because you have a nice setup, you have projectors, you have all of the Dolby Atmoses that you could possibly need to relive the theater going experience. You got to get that straight off the disc.
Yeah, a regular person, I don't expect them to have this kind of thing. I like, if you're a huge fan of Falcon Winter Soldier or maybe Moon Knight, you're like, I really want to own Moon Knight, really enjoyed it. This is great for you then. Add it in there. I don't think Disney Plus is not the since Disney owns this, Disney Plus is not the place that will take this offline, right? I don't expect the Falcon and Winter Soldier or Moon Knight to disappear from Disney Plus at any given time. So that is not a fear for those. But I do enjoy having the Steelbook sets for all these. But like the movies, I will absolutely grab. The TV shows, kind of hit or miss, if I'm going to be honest. For some of that stuff, it's just you can only fit, I think, 2 episodes a disc, maybe, or maybe 3. Depending on how long they are, right? So, you're still swapping disc if you ever want to sit down and watch a lot of series in a row for that. But yeah, I'm excited to see. I think the thing about Marvel, whether you like these shows or not, I know you're not a fan of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like the artwork, the designs for everything, still pretty solid in everything they do. I think. They really lean into the symbolism and the color palettes and stuff for each series and movie, and I'm excited for that. So I'm more impressed with the quick turnaround for these, if I'm going to be completely honest. When they say we're going to do this, and then the pre-orders on the 12th, or 11th or 12th, which is this week, and then to be able to have it within 2 months, that's the impressive part to me, Mike, at the end of the day. So we got some more of these later we'll talk about, but we'll jump into Marvel Zombies real fast. This is an update. Moon Knight in the animated series Marvel Zombies will apparently be Blade with Khonshu empowerment, which is backing up that Mahershala Ali rumor we had earlier this year, saying that he will voice a character. So I think it's pretty neat.
Wait, so Moon Knight, you say, is going to meet Blade?
No. So Moon Knight is someone who's been chosen by Khonshu, right? It's not necessarily a person. It's someone with the powers.
I see
So Blade will have Moon Knight's powers and be the Moon Knight in the show.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So not only will he be a badass with swords fighting, zombies and vampires, but he will also have Moon Knight's powers.
Oh, I mean, it'd be kind of cool if they do maybe a fun character design of kind of mashing up maybe some of the white kind of cloth garb and maybe cowl.
Yeah.
With Blade. That'd be kind of cool. I'd be interested to see the character if they do anything unique with it.
And what do we always say in animation? They can make any power set work in animation, right? So giving him his obviously Daywalker powers and Moon Knight powers would be really cool to see in animated form along the way. Moving on, X-Men 97 had a fun little TV guide artwork release showing the release schedule and episode titles for the upcoming show. This week. So they showed the character models, confirming that the premiere on March 20th is a 2-episode premiere, kicking us back off and doing weekly up until the season end in May. So
yeah, I mean, all you have to do is read these episode titles to go like, oh, I don't think this is really for the kiddies anymore. I mean, Fire Made Flesh, Tolerance is Extinction,
Life Death,
like that. I mean, they're doing what they should do, where the audience was created back in 97 and we're all older now. So there's no reason to follow the same kind of standards and practices.
Yeah. And then on top of that, the fact that they're leaning into this 90s vibe, like with the TV guide. It's even got the little printed label sticker on the bottom and the old remote, right? Like they are just really having a good time with the designs on this and the marketing material. So kudos to them, and I'm excited to get this watching when it comes out in literally a week and a half, 10 days. So. Be cool. Deadpool and Wolverine. I about wrote this note as Deadpool 3, Mike, because I forgot we had a title that came out in the Super Bowl. Vinnie Jones, as you may remember, who played the Juggernaut in X-Men 3, because he's the Juggernaut bitch, his team couldn't strike a deal to return for the movie as Juggernaut in Deadpool and Wolverine. And mostly he says because the practical suit he wore in X-Men was a physical and mental toll on him. So,
which is interesting because, if you look at the suit, I wouldn't necessarily say there's, I mean, I guess its eye is different in the beholder or the wearer, if you will. But I would imagine you could take those maybe concerns to the costume department and maybe they'd have some,
some updates,
new upgraded techniques. But it seems like if they couldn't come to an agreement, it's probably more about money, right?
Yeah, time.
The Deadpool team is probably looking at these as like maybe cheap, fun cameos if you want to like come to set for like a day or two and be in a big summer movie blockbuster, reprise your character. Where maybe some of the other people are thinking like, oh, you need me to really sell this cameo, so we want the big bucks. And
it's funny.
There's a disparage. There's a disparage there between the two.
Yeah, well, I would say it's also funny that we've already had a Juggernaut since him. That was all CG in Deadpool 2. So, not necessarily that we need him. I think I like Vinnie Jones. I think he's funny. I think he's always a great part of the movies he's in. And it's sad that he's not there. But again, he's older, right? Like this 20 years later making this. Maybe it is like. And I didn't have a good time making that last one, so I don't want to do another one. So,
yeah, it seems like it's pretty clear that they are trying to bring in the Fox X-Men universe into one movie, because we really haven't seen a whole lot of cameo news and rumors for anything like MCU related, kind of outside of like the TVA explicitly, which we're not even seeing any familiar characters from Loki. We're just seeing the institution of the TVA. So I think that's a good idea. And you've brought it up before that like maybe it's Deadpool kills the X-Men Fox universe or something like that. Yeah, that seems poetic.
Yeah, and like they have like the 20th century sign there, right, in the commercial, right, in the Voidland or whatever, and everything else. So it's supposed to be a send off at the end of the day, whether he kills them or they just don't make it out. It's supposed to be a send off. So it's sad that not everyone can come back, but I think that leaves some surprises for us still along the way without that. Star Wars, this was sent over in a group chat earlier this week from Jason. We talked about on top of the show, and he's very excited. We had a conversation about this, and I'm going to pose the question for you here, because we had our first Hot Toys look at Balin's skull from Ahsoka. And obviously a standout character in Ahsoka, right? Like if you were to like, talk about a character, like, yeah, I remember Ray Stevens' character in this. Ray Stevenson. I don't remember. I have to look this up. But he did a great job, obviously, right? Like his lightsaber, like you mentioned, I always remember when he blasted that little orb with his lightsaber, kind of thing. Like he did a great. So we got a cool Hot Toys here. I'm pretty sure Jason's gonna get it. He's got some cool actions, cool poses. The question was that was posed to us is, if they recast him in season 2, do you buy the second Hot Toy, or what prompts you to buy the second Hot Toy?
Swappable head. So they don't even make another figure. They just sell a new head that you can swap out. If this topic in the podcast is just to like revisit the character, from Ahsoka, I mean, really the only thing that stood out to me as extra special in that show was his character. But the question I have is, how big and thick does a beard have to be on a Hot Toy or a Sideshow collectible before you use like kind of like fake like strands of hair, right? Because there are a few like Hot Toys or like high end figures that I've seen in the past where they're kind of using like fake flowy hair, like something you can actually touch and comb, if you will. I'm just curious if they've ever done that with beards, because his beard was so well crafted.
I don't think Hot Toys is that. I think that's maybe more the higher end ones, the Sideshow collectibles, rather than the Hot Toys. Same paradigm. This is just more of the I guess the smaller ones. So possibly they could use that. Back to the answer though, the question I posed to you, since you don't want to have one, we did discuss that if we were to buy a second one, simply because Ray Stevenson's great and his character's great, it would have to be a very drastic costume change in person to buy a second one. Because obviously if they made a swappable head, that's not really worth it at the end of the day. But well, I was going to say, if you click through here on Hot Toys Collectible, if you scroll down on the Instagram, you get to see all the other toys. They have some one-piece ones, which would be interesting to see. Stretchy Luffy, right? There's Wanda, Gore, evil Spider-Man with his suit, stuff like that. So Hot Toys are just coming in hot, if you will.
They're always great. And I sent you over a shot of Scarlet Witch that has even featured in the detail as wool hair. So what I'm saying is I want to see that as a beard somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I want a bearded character. So if anybody knows of any like is there like a Gandalf out there or something where they're using like woolen hair for his beard? I don't want it, but I just think it'd be cool to see.
Yeah, okay. The Barbies for boys. You gotta shape his beard however you want it to be.
To comb his little beard.
That's right. I mean, I know you don't have one, Mike, but you got to take care of these things as a beard owner. They're daily maintenance along the way. To wrap up Star Wars real fast, the Kenobi show, I think it's officially called Obi-Wan Kenobi, is getting a steelbook release as well on April 30th. But this confirms also, it says get the entire series on this, confirming that what Lucasfilm has always said, that this was a one-off show. People are like, we want a sequel. Of course, we'd all love to see Ewan McGregor returns Obi-Wan Kenobi, but they've always said that this was a one-off show, and this verbiage doesn't change that they could do a second series, but like has confirmed that, hey, we are not essentially working on a second one here along the way.
I mean, that doesn't fully rule out my kind of fan wish of having Ewan McGregor pop up just very briefly in like Andor season 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because season 2, like there's supposed to be like time jumps, like every couple episodes or something until you're caught up to the Rogue One film. So man, if he was just in like one like special episode or something, that would just be that'd be so cool.
Yeah, no, I think that would be, and they kind of set him up to do a journey, so they could literally put him anywhere they wanted to. Before
this does reinforce that fan edit that's out there, where it took the whole series and boiled it down to like a feature film runtime. I've yet to watch it, even though Chris, you have supplied it to me.
Yes.
I do want to watch it at some point in time, but it's hard to justify watching like an experiment when there's 1,000 other things I haven't watched.
I did watch when Topher Grace edited, I believe it was Spider-Man 3 down to whatever it was supposed to be, like his edit of it was actually pretty good. It was like an hour and a half, actually pretty good Spider-Man 3 edit. So sometimes those things come out pretty well at the end of the day. But on the flip side, this is the one I think you would probably be interested in, Mike, and this Andor season 1 releasing the physical 4K Blu-ray Steelbook on April 30th as well.
Would I ever use the discs? No, but would it look cool on a shelf? Possibly.
Andor is again one of those shows that again we admit we shit all over it for years, and then we were like, damn, it's a good show. And now we can't wait for season 2. So it's just one of those things like, do we make up for it by giving them some money? Like, yes, Andor, take our money, make more stuff like this, like confirming to Disney, like,
I see what you're saying.
Take our money because we want you to see where the good stuff is, kind of deal. Because on streaming, of course, they see the numbers, they see all that fun stuff, but that doesn't mean that it's numbers can be conflated any way you want them to, as we talked about earlier in the show. But I don't think I'm buying the Star Wars stuff. Hell, I don't even know if I have it. I don't know if I have Rise of Skywalker even in my set of Star Wars movies that I own. So, but Andor would be the one I would probably lean into if I did say that. That like imagine like an Andor complete series / Rogue One book together, like all of those in one collection would be pretty sweet.
That would be a fun little collection.
Little
like if
package.
I'm starting to craft my future Star Wars watch for my child down the road.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I think original trilogy, and like if they want to see some fancier effects, we throw in Andor once they hit the right age to see their characters that they ingratiated with explode on a planet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that is a solid pocket of Star Wars. Right?
But don't tell them.
Rogue One.
Don't tell them about Rogue One. Like let them get destroyed at the end of that movie after they watch the journey to get there. So
don't worry, their sacrifice wasn't in vain.
That's right. You got to see all the way through there. So absolutely. So that's coming out next week. Pre-order start this week as well. Lastly, this news is not for you. I shared this with you. You didn't take well to it, so this news is not for you. This is for everyone else, Mike. Avatar: The Last Airbender, Netflix, the series has been renewed for seasons 2 and 3 to tell the books of Earth and Fire. It has remained #1 on the streaming charts, I think, since it debuted for a few weeks still. Obviously didn't convert me to a lover, even though I'm not, very not out there. Mike, you've got something to say, because obviously you're a fan of the original. This doesn't live up to your expectations. But for the people who are experiencing this for the first time or having a good time, I'm not here to tell you, no, you can't have a good time. I'm happy Netflix actually confirmed 2 more seasons, rather than saying we're going to do 1 more and then possibly canceling before they even tell the whole story. At least they're giving the creators enough time to tell the story in the show, like the whole thing.
They are very lucky in a sense of this particular story in Avatar has a very definitive ending, and the original animated series was told in 3 seasons. So you can tell an entire narrative, and then Netflix will finally, feels like for the first time in a long time, have one standalone story that can live on its platform, right?
Yep.
Something that they can go back to and not worried about if it's canceled and if they should commit any time to it.
This gives me also some Stranger Things vibes, because that's supposed to be the first show that the original show they deal with. And I know Avatar is an adaptation, not an original show, but like, how badly have the actors aged up from Stranger Things, Mike, from when it started to what the final season's going to be, right? It's been like 10 years or something. Those kids aged up.
That's true.
So to keep the Avatar people about the same age, let's just go ahead and film 2 and 3, in a row here, or as close as we can, to keep the actors the same age.
Yeah, and also they're lucky that it's within 3 seasons, so they don't have to worry about contract renegotiations in the middle of this. I'm sure season 2 and season 3 might not necessarily be filmed in conjunction, but I'm sure they're going to be thinking about completing the whole story when they're maybe developing like costumes and sets and locations. I'm sure the location scout is like, oh, this will be good for season 3 when we go here or whatever. Even when they're working on season 2. I mean, after we talked about the first 3 episodes of the live action series on the show a couple weeks ago, just out of curiosity, since it's been so long, I want to go back and rewatch the first episode of the Last Airbender, animated, which to Netflix's credit is on Netflix. I didn't have to hunt it down anywhere else. I didn't have to subscribe to Paramount Plus or whatever to go watch the original version of Avatar.
It's a rarity. It's a rarity in the world today.
Yeah. They're synergizing over there with Avatar, and it's just I have strong nostalgia for the animated series, but the characterizations, the storytelling, everything is so much tighter and cleaner and more enjoyable. I just got no joy out of those 3 episodes. I mean, Sokka's barely funny in the live action one, and I've seen some official social media Netflix clips where they put a lot of Sokka's one-liners or whatever from the live action into a package, and I watched it all. I was like, none of these even come close to being as funny as he is in the cartoon. So it's just I don't get any joy watching it. So we tried to compare this a lot to the One Piece review, and we said, we can't be the best critics because we never really watched One Piece, but we enjoyed it. So I suppose there's versions of us like that out there. We never watched the animated version and can look at this as its own standalone thing. But I am unfortunately poisoned by the original that is just so good. Critics, fans love it so much that over a decade later, millions upon millions of dollars can be dumped into it to be turned into live action. That's how good it is. So unfortunately, the magic trick didn't work on me. You told me that you think with more time, maybe they can learn, get better,
the feed. Well, they listen to the
something.
feedback, right? I don't think the scripts are set in stone for season. I don't think Netflix had that foresight to be hey, let's go ahead and get this work done on the other ones. I don't think they have that. So I think they'll be able to work on that a little bit more with the feedback in mind.
Now, I will say I do have curiosity here of how some things are going to translate to live action. I would like to tune in for season 2, just an episode to see how they're going to execute Toph's character. Yep. Toph is one of the most important parts of the Avatar universe, even her legacy when it comes into Legend of Korra, and we haven't even seen that character yet. I'd love to see how the big Earth Kingdom looks in season 2.
Ba Sing Se.
Yeah,
There is no war in Ba Sing Se.
I talked about the dude that has the laser beam in his forehead. There's things that I'm curious to see how it translates. Are they going to do that? The third season has an iconic episode of where the characters go to see a play about themselves and kind of see how they're characterized by the Fire Nation. I'd love to kind of see maybe if they end up doing that. And then also the final episode, the Sozin's comic thing, where, when, Aang is, doing his final battle, that might be kind of fun to see how it translates. But like, there's no way I'm committing to completing the whole series, but I will dip in just to see how things look. Then I'm going to dip right back out.
Well, you're already paying for Netflix, so it's free.
That's true.
That's like at least 5 tickets in the movie theater if we were.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. It's already doing better than Barbie. Right?
Yeah, I will say, being reviewed for this, I've listened to some other people, of our age, and they were, they're more like you who grew up on it, watch it, like they're sour, like, the shows just doesn't have everything. They kind of rush it. They tell you, they don't show you a lot of things along the way, which we talked about. But one of them was like, he was watching it and his kid walked in the middle of like season 1. And he's like, what's this? And he's like, well, it's Avatar. He's like, can I watch it? He's like, yeah, sure. And like the kids was like glued to the show. So if this is like, not saying like this is, they can like the animated one too, but like kids are going to like this. Like if this is their first, interaction with the Avatar, they don't know better, but then they'll see this and then see something even better later. Right, if they get to the animation second. So I still think it can be a good first dose, if you will, of Avatar if you're out of it. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not Madam Web of adaptations. This isn't Dragon Ball Evolution even of anime adaptations. So I think there are things that people can enjoy, or at least not understand, who like younger people, youth who are getting into it. That's fine. So I'm not as down on it as you are. I just don't care enough. Right, I don't have those member berries or feels for it along the way, but that's fine. That's the show for this week, Mike. We made it. We've done it. We've used our extra or less than an hour to still find a way to put a show in to today, and that's what I appreciate about you. But if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you, buddy?
Yeah, they can find my webcomics at Life Rewards Risk and pickledcomics.com. Chris, people want to catch up with you. Where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN87, or Video Game Systems of the same name. They don't have user profiles for Atari, Mike. I can't get my online Atari going. It just doesn't have it in our play yet. I know. But people know about the show, what we're doing, but they can tune in every week or subscribe. Where can they get that at?
You know what? Head on over to any of our social media pages. Superhero Slate podcast on Instagram, Superhero Slate, I think on the other platforms that we have. Chris have been putting together these awesome kind of like clips of our show. So if there's a particular part in any episode that you liked, there's a good chance that Chris has probably clipped all the best parts. So if you really like the show and you really want to share it with people, and sending an entire hour of audio to somebody that's never heard of us before might be a little intimidating. I think these clips are a really, really great way for people to understand the show that we've been doing now for 465 plus episodes.
465 news episodes. That doesn't include review episodes. Yeah.
Exactly. So that would be great. Chris would love to see. I mean, he's sending me the screenshots of the analytics all the time, and it really gets us jazzed. So we haven't plugged the social channels in a while because we just really weren't sure what we wanted to do with them. Like, it kind of seemed pointless just to like do like a post for like, oh, new episode up. It's just not very exciting. Yeah, but Chris has been working really hard.
We found a way to automate a lot of that, and then add some flourishes in there, so that's helped our workflow a little bit better. I mean, people talk about AI. AI is helping me do this, and without it, I would not be able to do all the work I do. Not that it's taking over what I'm doing; it's just helping me get there faster. But yeah, absolutely. If you guys give a like or share to those things to somebody, because I am trying my hardest to get that out there, because I think we do. Mike, you and I, we've done this for years. It's been fun. I hope more people tune in. But go on, continue.
If there's ever a segment of an episode that you found particularly crazy, where either we're being dumb or funny or insightful, let us know, and that will Chris will zero in on it and make a fun clip of it, and we'll just laugh all the way together into the sunset. So superheroslate.com, best place to find all the avenues we host our show. Merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Reach out, let us know what you're loving about the show. And if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.